lives. And what we do is we share our lives, like in real life, we share our real
Mm-hmm.
lives to empower women to love Jesus, love themselves, and love others well. And so today, Janelle is going to pop out and let us know what we are talking about in this conversation, y'all.
In this conversation, we are so excited because we have Jennifer Lucy Tyler on with us. She's a friend to us in the show. She
Yeah.
has helped so many women come to know Jesus. She's a Bible teacher. She's a writer. She's a speaker. She's a entrepreneur. And we are excited because she has such a great story to tell. Let me tell you something, ladies and
All around
gentlemen,
bossy.
get your pen and paper, okay? Because
Yes,
you're going to
yes.
learn some things. So,
Yeah,
with that
yeah.
being said, let's have Jennifer on with us. Hi, Jennifer.
Yes, come on, Blondie. Pull up for us. Pull up for us on tonight.
Her hair is always laid, y'all. Whether it be braids,
Right.
locks, twist,
I
it's
prefer
always
my,
done.
my braids, so I don't know how much longer I'm gonna do this, but
This is
yeah,
a vibe. This is
thank
a whole
They're great.
vibe. It's a whole
thank you.
vibe.
I'm glad to be here with y'all.
And,
I love
and
what
we
you
are
do.
glad to have you. We're glad
Yes.
to have you. So, let's get into it. Tell us about yourself. Talk about yourself.
Oh, I hate talking about myself.
I know it's hard.
I'm a woman who is first a disciple of Jesus, and I am a wife. I live in the DMV. For those who don't know, that is the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, but I'm born and raised in DC. I love creating spaces for women to be able to gather and study the scriptures together. That's something that I'm really passionate about and became passionate about over time. I've been an entrepreneur since 2012. And that was something that I did not plan on doing, but I feel like God just kind of pushed me into entrepreneurship, and we may end up talking
That
about
sounds
that.
about right.
Yeah, like drop kicked into entrepreneurship.
With the nunchucks.
And here I am. I own a consulting firm called Mission Consulting Hub, which is a hub of BIPOC women consultants who we exist to serve the servant leader with areas of writing copy and social media management, all those cool things. And then Soul Circles is my women's ministry. It's a community where women gather to study together, study the Word of God, and learn from other Bible teachers. So that's a little bit about me on the surface. If y'all want me to go.
We getting deep. Okay. So, I mean, prepare your life. So, of course, one of the things when Janelle was kind of just like listing the many different parts of you, right? I interjected and was like, an all around boss, like, and boss vibes is not necessarily like you're being bossy or you're telling someone what to do, but truly just being able to lead within yourself, like lead yourself in that sense of resiliency and pulling yourself into, feeling like you have there's so many different things that you've been pulled into and finding ways out of them. So I wanted to just kind of start out by talking about how did you choose this career path that you're on? I know you said that Jesus just straight drop kicked you into it, but let's talk about what that actually looks like, because that in and of itself is a boss vibe, like being able to walk in what you believe the Lord has called you to and walking that out. That's hella bossy. You know what I'm saying? So talk to us about how you got in there.
Well, it's interesting. In my life, ministry and entrepreneurship have just kind of been intertwined. And I want to talk a little bit about the entrepreneurial side for a minute. I was working in corporate America in DC, working for the government, got me my good government job.
Yes,
with the pension.
Yeah,
the benefits.
All that. Right. When my husband and I first got married, and I remember at the time, during our first year of marriage, during our engagement, actually, I released my first book called Dry Tears, A Woman's Guide to Overcoming. This was back in 2010. And when I wrote that book, God started opening up all of these doors to teach and to share with other women, whether it be youth conferences or women's conferences. And yet I was still going to work and trying to balance the both of these things. And I remember speaking to a coworker and saying, the way that these requests are coming, I don't know how to balance it. Because I kept using my leave, and then I kept taking off to go.
Right, oh, you was taking the PTO. You were like, all right, I'm not feeling well today.
I gotta go do Jesus work, but I'm sick.
You know, I didn't lie about it though.
Good.
I didn't lie about it, but you know, I kept having to use leave, and I remember just at this place of not being fulfilled, but knowing that, all right, God, you have me here. So this is my mission field, my office, my cubicle nation right here. And let me.
She just like cubicle nation. I'm done.
That's a new one.
I'm done, you know. Wait, okay.
And let me show the love of God to cubicle nation right here until you open the door otherwise. And I went to lunch with my mom. And I remember telling her, I said, by the end of this year, 2012, I am not going to be at this job. And she just laughed it off and was like, girl, I know you can't stand that job. Da, 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 da. I go back to my desk that day, turn on the computer, and Human Resources sends me an email. They call me back into the office and they let me go on that day. They laid me off. And I remember calling my husband. I was so excited. Because
you got to get unemployment too.
Okay, for real. I was excited about that unemployment because it was
me how I know.
Listen, it's that cushion. It's that cushion, all right? You need that cushion, right? Okay.
But I remember, like, because prior to that, I wanted to quit. And I kept telling my husband about it. He was like, no, I don't know if that's God. So then look, my dog wants to be loud and whine.
It's all right.
Go on. And so, look, so I wanted to quit. And my husband, he wasn't having it. He's like, okay, I don't know if this is God. So when I got let go, I was like, see, I told you.
Right
and
there.
At the time, I was working doing some sales things, and then the speaking engagements began to pick up, and he started seeing God's hand on the entrepreneurial journey. And he started saying, okay, all right, I see. And he never pressured me to go back into corporate America. And I'm grateful for that support.
That is awesome. That is so great to hear, to have a partner who saw the vision, especially when God knocked you out of that place and put you in the, like you said, I don't know if you said karate kicked, but that's how I felt. Karate kicked into entrepreneurship. While I was holding on to wanting to work for someone else, he like pried my fingers off. So I get that. I totally get that. So I'm gonna pivot a little bit, right? So you're a speaker, you're a writer, and so what made you specifically want to speak to women, and what made you want to specifically share Christ? Like, you could have done anything, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I share Christ because just how he saved me and how far away I was from him, and just how much my life was transformed. That's why I'm always going to be bold. And that's why I am passionate. I can identify with the woman that is broken, the woman who's promiscuous, the woman who is confused about her sexuality, the stripper, the drug dealer, the drug user. And those are things that, you know, I experienced in my teenage years, but also young adult years. And a lot of that was just the fruit of not knowing church, but not knowing Christ.
Ooh.
And also,
we both were like, woo! You went bullseye. Okay.
Because
Jennifer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pause on that. Let that
Okay.
marinate.
Let
that
shut
one
up and let her
marinate.
speak.
Because
Go ahead, girl.
I mean, I grew up going to church and knowing all the Bible stories, but there was no transformation. I didn't know Christ. And because I didn't know him, I didn't know that I was created in the image of him. And I didn't understand what that meant. And so because I didn't understand that I was created in his image, I allow my body to be used for whatever, you know what I mean?
God of mercy.
And then, you know, growing up in DC, my father fell prey to the crack epidemic of the 80s, right? And so he became addicted to drugs. And that was a struggle that he had throughout most of my life, most of his life. He passed away in 2017. And my father was present, but not present, meaning he was in the home. He was a great dad when he was sober, when he, you know, was having his streaks of not wrestling with that demon, right? But at the times that he struggled, he wasn't present in the home. And so that led to me just wanting to, like many women, seek love, you know, in all the wrong places. And so I went through this period of my life just being destructive and toxic, and knowing that, you know, even in the midst of that, you know, I can see God's hand on my life, and I recognize that I had a call. But man, this is why I'm passionate to share the gospel, because it was the gospel that transformed my life. My mother, so there was a few transformative moments, but I remember my mom, God transforming her life and her living out this walk before me, and me kind of looking at her like, who does she think she is? But low key being jealous because she has so much joy.
Wow.
And I wanted that joy. I wanted her joy and her grace and her peace and everything. And I just was looking at her life like, how can this woman have so much peace, but her husband is struggling with drug addiction and, you know, all this other stuff? I couldn't understand it. But my mother just exemplified Christ to a point where I was like, okay, what is this? I'm curious. So, you know, I went to church, and there was this gospel presentation that I responded to. God, at that time, at that event, my best friend was with me. I took her because I said, look, I don't want to come to church with all these church people by myself. You're going to come with me. And the Lord saved us both on that day in July 2004. September 2004, my best friend who came with me to church was killed, and in DC. And that moment when she was killed, that was the surrender moment for me. That was the catalyst that said, because, you know, the Lord has saved me. Like, I got saved in July, but I was still like doing me and you know, struggling and straddling on the fence. But when my best friend was killed, it was just like,
wow,
done. I had no peace, no joy, except for when I was in church. I became like, I would just drive up to the church and sit in a parking lot, like, because, and we all know now, like, Christ, you don't have to actually go to a building to have that peace. But for me back then, that was what I related to peace. And until I grew in my relationship with God.
Right.
And so it drives everything that I do. It drives my passion to see women whole and healed and set free and loving God and just loving the life with him. Not saying that we are going to live a perfect life when he saves us, but just knowing that our lives can be transformed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ooh,
That
thank
was
you for sharing that.
that was so good. That
Thank
was
you for
so
sharing that.
good. Yeah, thank you. But I think that what you were talking about was just really being at a crossroads in your life. Like,
Right.
of course, I feel like there's so many different crossroads within our lives, right? Um, and can you walk us through a crossroads that you experienced in your life and what you would tell yourself now, what you would have told yourself then? Like, as you stand right now, like, I would talk to myself and then say, like, blank. What was the crossroads, or what is the crossroad that you're referring to?
Well, I've had a lot of crossroads, but since I was talking about that particular story, I'll talk about that crossroad. There was a crossroad of being at this place where you have this life and you have all of these relationships and friendships and you just have a way of doing like that is comfortable to you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the crossroad is God is calling you to surrender and walk away from all of that and to completely walk away from all of those attachments, all of those relationships, all of those friendships, because they were toxic and you needed to become whole and renewed in him. And if I could tell myself anything, is just, I would say, Jennifer, whatever you leave for God, man, he will give you so much better. And that you're not losing, you're actually gaining.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that so many women, especially period, think that when they come to God and when they surrender to him and that they think that they're losing something, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, we're gaining so much more. We're gaining life, and that is what I would tell my old self. Like, there's going to be a time, sis, when you're going to be able to look back and you're going to be like, I can't believe I was holding on to all of this mess.
I mean, the crazy part is that it like legitimately is difficult because you're looking at something and you're like, I've used whatever this is that's in front of me as an identifier, right? Like, this has built my identity. So in order, like, removing one thing to build building the ideas around building your identity, and especially when you're like, real talk, you probably didn't really even know your identity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you thought that that's what it was, right?
Yeah, right.
And you
thought it worked too.
And you thought it worked. So in your mind, you're like, no, I can't leave this because this is what
this is who I
am. Like,
and I had no idea who I was.
Right. No idea.
Right.
Let me tell you, like, God started showing me who I was back then. And I thought, like, I can't be that. I remember having dreams of me with a short haircut.
I love it.
On a stage, ministering and sharing the gospel to women. And back then, I was light years away from that. That was never a pursuit. That was something that I did not want. And I remember seeing that and I was like,
it's a joke. It's a joke. Right.
It's a joke.
Right. I mean, but that also then gets into our next question in reference to who do you feel like you had to become in order to walk into this space in your life and to stand boldly in this space in your life? Like, who do you feel that you had to become within yourself?
Ooh. Who do I feel I had to become? That's an interesting question. I think that I had to just become surrendered. Someone that is surrendered to God is willing to be shaped and molded by him and willing to sacrifice, willing to give up, the things that are holding you back. And I think that that's a continual process, right?
Yeah.
None of us have arrived. In our Christian experience, it is a daily walk. It's a daily choice to surrender. And that's how we become who we are called to be, and created in His image. Surrender to His will, His way, His word, the Spirit of God that speaks to us. It's a daily surrender. And there are days when I don't feel like surrendering.
Girl.
Absolutely, girl.
Absolutely.
I don't feel like surrendering. Okay.
Come on.
So, but we get up and we surrender, and we know that, we're all the better for it.
Absolutely. Oh, so all month we've been speaking to phenomenal women who God has blessed with major vision, relationship with Him, and resilience. So we know you love Jesus, and we know for a fact that you have a relationship with Him. Can you tell us about the clear vision? You talked about it a little bit, and even more about resilience, because we talked about it earlier. You said that resilience is something that you have to display, or like to work in every day. So like, tell us about what you do to practice that resilience, and how to walk out that clear vision that God has given you.
Well, one of the things that I don't know if anyone talked about, but I think is important, is community. For me, being able to be resilient and being able to walk out clear vision, I am so grateful for a community of women that encourage, that I can come to and pray together. And even in business, I have my business besties where as we're working and as we're creating, I'm able to get on a quick FaceTime and talk things through. And even if I'm having a rough moment or a rough day, or even if I am running into imposter syndrome, right? I had a situation just yesterday where I was just being attacked in my mind about what man will think when, a certain teaching I did came out or something like that. And I had to talk to my sisters that had to, remind me of the image of God that I'm creating, and remind me of who I am. And so having that, that tribe, that community has been so helpful, and it's helped me to be resilient, because there are days and seasons where I've been weak. I remember 2019, I went through a huge transition within my business and started doing some other things. And there was a season of silence where I wasn't sure. I was transitioning out of something, but I didn't know what I was transitioning to. And it was a silent season. And I remember feeling like, God, like, why have you forsaken me? What is going on? Like, it just felt like, it was such a wilderness season that required me to cling to Christ like never before. And it was also my community, my friends that helped me, that pushed me, that encouraged me and let me know that, I wasn't less than because I was going through a season.
Yes. That's what they're there for. Listen. Yes, community Jennifer. Is so key. Thank you. And you built a community for women. If you want to tell us a little bit about that.
It's because I love community so much, that I wanted to build a community of women where they could come and learn from one another, build relationships and friendships all around the Word of God. And so our community is focused on giving women basic tools to study the Bible, which is something I became passionate about, because even as a Christian and someone who's been a Christian for years, I saw that some women just really didn't know how to actually study and sit down and, exegete a passage. And people felt like, I may need to go to seminary to learn this. And, I wanted to give them an environment where it could be the seminarian or the person who only has a high school education, but to be able to come together and learn how to study the scriptures and for us to learn from one another. And so that is the community that Soul Circles is.
Yeah. So how could we get in touch with, how could we be a part of Soul Circles? How could we get in touch with you? How could we read your books? Like, how could we get into everything that God is doing through
let us know the deets.
Okay, so let me say this. Reading my books, I took Dry Tears, my first book, I took that off sale because when you evolve, I've released that in 2010. I look back at that like theology now, and I'm like, what in the heck was I saying? So it's so funny because I had a friend that just recently bought it, and she was like, why was it so hard for me to find? I was like, because I didn't want you to find it. So
that's funny. That's hilarious.
But I am writing again, so Lord willing, you'll see something in the, so I won't say when. But anyway, you can find me at Jennifer Lucy Tyler on all social media. It's the same on Instagram. You can connect with Soul Circles on Instagram at Soul Circles Events, or my website at jenniferlucytyler.com.
Yes, you'll see her working out with her husband. You'll see her getting her hair done. You see her studying the word.
Steady.
The hair is always laid.
Steady laid, y'all.
And I love it.
Y'all so nice because I feel like it's a mess right now. But
no, you want to see my hair?
Y'all, get on her page, scroll, and you'll see all the finesse. The finesse just be out there. It just be out there.
I love y'all.
But Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. And shout out to you for capping us for Women's History Month. Like, this has been amazing. You've been amazing. This whole month has been dope. And we're just so grateful to be able to talk to such dope women. Like, each woman that we were talking to each week has been like, wow, like the Lord did what? How he did that? Right. Like, it was like a story, like, what? Put us on the roller coaster. You was going up and then you went down, and it's like, whoa. So yeah, it's been dope.
Well, y'all have a dope thing going on here. Like, everything that God is doing. I'm excited to see more women, just learn about what y'all doing, because it's everything.
Yeah, well, thank you. You've always been encouraging from day one.
Listen, y'all, we had a sit down conversation with Jennifer, and I was like,
and we were like, oh,
somebody, please gather. How did she just spit straight bullseye facts? It was like one after the other. Like,
and guess what, y'all? That was just a consultation. So therefore, go.
I am a coach.
Listen, y'all.
That was just a consult. That wasn't even like a paid coaching session. That was
literally.
Intro. Yeah.
For it to just be falling out like that, like just out. I was like, oh nah. But yeah, so y'all, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next Thursday. We have a whole new theme coming out next month. Jennifer, be sure to keep in contact and make sure you are checking for that as well. But listen, y'all, we're going to say goodnight. And just wanted to say, on this channel, we share our lives to empower women to love Jesus, love themselves, and love others well, y'all. So stay tuned. See y'all next Thursday. Have a good night.
Have a great night. Take care.